Who's ready for Tegan and Sara? Oh, yes. All right, friends, before we get to the ladies, we will definitely talk about a little bit of housework, okay? First and foremost, your phones are gonna go bing, bing, boom, boom at 12:55 p.m. today. Ontario, Government of Ontario and the Province of Ontario, they're going to be sending us an emergency alert system. Actually, it's going to go throughout the country. So it's a national system test. We just wanted to alert you just in case you're in your sessions and all of a sudden it goes, woo, woo, you know that one that we always get? Just so you're not like, what is that? Oh my God. And then, you feel like, oh no, that was my phone that went off in the middle of this chat. It's going to be everyone's phone. So we're all in this together, okay? Just a little FYI. If you're just joining us for the first time, please download the Departure app. There you can build your schedule, figure out your program for the day, and just kind of see what's active, what's happening in the here and now. P.S. On your schedules might be the Fifi Dobson chat. That's later on today here in this room. Guess what? Breaking news, I like to say, we've moved that chat, okay? So Fifi is still going to be with us. She's just going to be in the Princess Gate Ballroom, just around the corner on this side, so you can still enjoy that chat with a full hour of Fifi, who is so rad and so cool. All right, friends, also Tegan and Sara are rad and cool as well, and I love their advocacy and what they do for community. Up next, we have our two icons, Canadian icons that are now here, but not just in music, but also in social change. Tegan and Sara have used their platform to uplift the LGBTQ+ community and voices to expand access to healthcare and education through the Tegan and Sara Foundation. Moderated by our friend, multidisciplinary artist and advocate, Vivek Shraya, they will be in this conversation together, which will be very honest, very personal, and deeply inspiring. Are you all ready? I don't think you're ready. Are you all ready? All right, give me applause going for Vivek, Tegan, and Sara.
Oh boy,
Hi.
it's
Hi, holy.
bright AF in here.
Really gonna try not to give you a wardrobe malfunction over there. Hi, how's everyone doing?
Okay, great.
This is really good.
I like it though.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel alert.
Yes. There's no sleepy time now.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thanks for having me.
We just were talking backstage that we've been friends with Vivek for 20 years now. And do you want to
It's
say
like the
how?
first line here.
Oh, is it?
It's
Sorry.
like already topping me.
Oh my God, I just
so
asked
sorry.
you.
No,
Do
no,
you
no.
see us as having sort of mask
No, I'm a sub.
energy
I'm a
and
sub.
dominating, and
You gave a coy smile, and that was how you were going to open it. We're so sorry.
no. Sorry. Hashtag sub. Go
Oh,
ahead.
it's okay. Okay, well, so I've had the privilege of knowing you for like 22 years actually, and this fall, believe it or not, is like, it's gonna be 20 years since I opened for you in Florida.
Wow.
With the Saturday hat and all those wonderful memories. But one of the things I remember so distinctly about that time is you had this website, the So Jealous website. It was like red and black, of course, and in the left-hand margin, you would post your news, but every so often you would also feature artists that people hadn't heard of yet. So like Northern State, Rachel Cantu, Ann Horse, and I think about that a lot because at the time you were still establishing your career. And so I'm so curious, like, where did the impetus to support other musicians at a time where you were still establishing yourself like come from? And if this was like a conscious mandate for you, because I do think this is connected to the work that you've kept doing in the foundation, like where did that come from essentially?
I think Sara and I started playing music in high school and signed a record deal pretty much right out of high school. And so we didn't have that period of time that a lot of musicians and creatives have where you build a community. So we were expedited through that process. And I think that meant the first handful of years in our career, we were really lonely. And I think we were really searching for community because those first few years, we mostly just opened for other artists and artists that were quite a bit older than us, like Neil Young, Joan Osborne. We opened for 5440. We went on tour and opened for Bryan Adams. Like, these were artists that were deeply respectful to us and really kind and helped us get our start, but they were parents. We were teenagers. And so I think I think the desire to create community is what drove us to look for artists, search out artists, and support them. And I also think the other part was we just had such an intense audience, even when it was small, they loved what we loved. And so it felt really important to share about the things we were interested in, especially when it came to music.
I just love this idea of generosity coming from a place of like loneliness, actually, and wanting to build a community.
We
That's
were
actually-
desperate
No,
bitches.
but that's really like wonderful, right? Like Sarah, do you have a model that you can think of when you were younger of like generosity being shown to you that like has stayed with you over the years?
Well, I mean, I guess in some way, you know, I think there's always like that, there's like the part of you that is trying to recreate something that was like a positive. So for us, like, we always were able to connect socially with people. I think to some degree that was because we were twins, and so there was a sort of like natural interest and curiosity about us, which sort of got us in the door in a lot of community, friendship, social situations. And then there was this sort of like life-changing moment of meeting a group of kids who, this was in grade 9, met a group of kids who just clicked with us in a way that we had never clicked with a group of people before, and that these people ended up remaining our friends for decades, and in some cases were our introduction into, you know, same-sex relationships and friendships that were really plentiful and deep even at a young age. Like all of that, I think we brought that all forward into our life. So while it wasn't necessarily like, I don't think at 14 years old, this group of French immersion students were like, let's be very generous with these like twins, you know? Like, I don't think it necessarily was as specific as that, but like what I learned from that situation and that social dynamic, I have sought that out in my adult life, both in my personal life and in my professional life. And then the sort of like other bucket is, how do we create the thing that we were missing? Like that's always been a sort of like narrative in our band and in our sort of like community, is like, I don't think anyone was doing it on purpose. I think it was a product probably of being twins, being very young, and then also just like coming up in an age where it wasn't as digitally connected. But we didn't have mentors. And we were so thirsty for mentors, which I think sent all possible mentors running in the opposite direction. And people have told me later in life, oh, it's because you always seemed so confident. Like you were intimidating. You seemed like you knew exactly where you were going and what you wanted to do. We didn't think you needed mentorship or support. And I still feel that way in a lot of, I'm always seeking out people who I think can teach me something, or who can, not teach me as in like an active teaching, but like I like to be around people who I think have something to tell me and to show me and to whatever. And I think that, you know, I think as like a person who also plays that role in other people's life, it's a gift to be able to do it. And I just want to say about the website thing, I miss that time before what we now know as social media. Like, there was something so fun about putting up posts or recommendations
Do it.
online, and
Go back to it.
No, it didn't feel like the home shopping network. You know, it didn't feel like I'm doing this thing and it'll somehow benefit me. It was truly just like, you know, sending it out, like writing a post or saying I love this band and putting it up into the world felt like so powerful and exciting. And now it just feels like, God, I really hate social media.
Separate conversation.
Different panel.
Separate, exactly.
I hate it.
Okay, but 11 years later, from the black and red So Jealous website, you've become global pop stars with Heartthrob. There's been Grammy nominations. You're performing for Oprah, the Oscars. And at what point in the midst of this huge success do you think, now it's time to start a foundation?
Well, you know, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. Like, some of our first shows out of high school were political shows. Like, we played Take Back the Night in Calgary right after we graduated. We went to Vancouver.
Shout out to Calgary.
Yeah, shout out to Calgary. We flew out to Vancouver and did this big social justice political kind of festival called Under the Volcano. So I think like very early on we understood there was a vibrant community of people that supported these kinds of causes and also liked our band. And I think we naturally just gravitated towards giving because of that desire to have community. But I think what happened sort of between 2010 and 2015 is that as our band became bigger, more people came to us asking for money or guitars or can you play this event for us? And it was such a wide spectrum of things that people came to us looking for money for, and we decided to sit down and actually kind of think through what would be something that would appeal to us, but also what would appeal to our audience, like so we could harness more focus and more passion and raise more funds. And we worked with an organization called GBG, and they sort of did an analysis of our audience and also us, and came back to us and said, if you guys want to start a foundation, you should look at funding LGBTQ organizations that center women or trans people, because there are not that many organizations doing that. There's a lot of organizations that fundraise for everybody or fundraise for gay men. And I think that was what made Sara and I feel really excited about starting a foundation, was that there was a gap and there was a place for us to raise funds. And it is hard as hell. It is very difficult to get people to give you money. It's also, obviously, the climate right now in the world is really scary and crazy, and people are terrified to open up their wallets and give, especially corporate organizations, which is unfortunate because they're so happy to slap a rainbow on their...
Especially in June, yeah.
Yeah, they're so happy to do that, but they're really afraid of taking that leap now. But I think that's a challenge Sara and I are willing to face. We're happy to get out there and still fight for representation for our community. And you know, you're on our board, so you know this about Tegan and Sara Foundation, but we all believe in the potential of the LGBTQ community, and we think of ourselves as investors, and we think of, all of us think of ourselves as investors, not just in the community, but in the potential of the community. And nothing has changed in the last 10 years since we started the foundation. If anything, I'm more inspired than ever before. So I don't know that we thought that way 10 years ago, but now I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. It's not just raising money, you're raising the potential of the community by investing in it. And I think of us as investors now. I own them.
Yes, we can applaud. That's nice.
Yeah.
We just
It's like a lesbian Warren Buffett, you know? She's ready to stick with it. She gotta stick with this shit through the thick of the thin. Well, and I say this all the time, like when we were just recently in Calgary having our foundation board meeting, and after one of the events, we were walking back to the hotel, and there was this really cool set of young people standing outside of a venue, and we walked by and they were like, we're in LGBTQ space, we're having our Friday night thing, come in. They had no idea who we were. And they were like, come in, we're doing karaoke. And then one of our...
And suddenly they do your song.
No! One of our board members, wonderful Blair Amani, went up and said, we want to do the song Closer, and then we got up and the kids critiqued my performance.
Your vocals were off.
Yeah, it was horrible, and
Where's the energy from the recording team?
Yeah, oh my god. Anyway, the point is that it was so inspiring, the space, and why they created it, and they're now one of our grantees, because we learned about them from literally just wandering by the space, and I love that that's what Tegan and Sara Foundation does. We find the small, grassroots, community-driven, often volunteer-run organizations that are
very opinionated on culture, of course.
Yeah, they have to be very opinionated on culture. No, but we find those kinds of organizations. I think that's, you know, again, why Tegan and Sara Foundation still inspires me so much all these years later, and maybe there is a parallel to, we used to be able to tell our audience, hey, you should check out these musicians and these artists, like, trust us, like, you'll like this. I feel the same way about 2S LGBTQ organizations.
Your money.
Yeah, give us your money. Give us your ear, give us your money. But now I feel the same way about what we do with the foundation. We vet and find these amazing organizations. You can trust that if you give us the money, it goes back to the community, and I love that. That work, it really inspires me.
So when the foundation first started though, did you have like a particular aha moment where you're like, yes? Because it was a huge undertaking to start a foundation. So I'm sure that there was maybe some reservations or hesitation. I'm just curious, like when in the early years, if there was like a moment where you're like, yeah, this is the work, this is what I want to be doing.
Well, first of all, you know, not to get too into the weeds, but I think a lot of philanthropic organizations, they have a very simple problem that they're trying to solve. It's not a simple problem, meaning the problem itself might be very complicated, but you can tell someone right away, like, we want to serve this community, you know, clean water. So we're, and that may be an extremely complicated and expensive problem to try to figure out, but it's really easy to explain it to a person what it is that you're trying to do. That is not easy with what we're trying to do. One of the sort of like earliest pieces of feedback I remember getting from the people who helped us establish the foundation was, you're trying to do too much. You're trying to reach too many people. And that, I think that speaks to the sort of like spectrum of not just issues, but like, our community is vast, and we
don't all agree.
We don't all agree. In fact, we mostly disagree. And I think also in some cases you're literally trying to solve a very small problem. So, for example, one of the early grantees was an organization who applied for a grant where they just wanted bus passes. Can you buy us bus passes? Because the community that we are trying to reach, we are in the inner city and they are out in the suburbs, and we want to make sure that they can reach us. We don't need you to help with programming. We don't need you to help us, keep the lights on. We just need bus passes. So how do you explain that? How do you compare that to, probably our largest and most recognizable program, which is just, we grant, funding to almost every LGBTQ summer camp in North America, so that they can, provide a place for people who maybe don't have money to come to the camp. It's like, there's not sort of like one statement or one problem that we can sort of like identify. And so I think over the first handful of years, it was just trying to become comfortable with the fact that it's a complicated conversation to have with people. But I think we've found our lane by listening to the community itself. We didn't have to come up with the sort of like statement. We just said, we're here, tell us what you need, and we will try to fund it. And I think that learning in the first few years sometimes made us feel like clumsy a little bit. Like, we were sort of trying to get it right out of the gate, and we were trying to sort of follow the rules, and then right away we were like, oh, we hate the rules. Why are we even pretending like we can do this the way that everyone else did it? So I think now, like it's just sort of like, we're almost at 10 years, and I sort of feel very confident in that we're kind of just doing it our way.
I mean, one of the things, and you've sort of circled around this, but one of the things I love about the foundation is that essentially it's not like a new thing that's just showing up. You actually support other organizations that are already doing all kinds of work in the community, grassroots organizations, smaller organizations, indie organizations. But just to really get detailed here, let's say all of these wonderful people donated $5 at the end of today. Where does that money go exactly? Because this is a question I get a lot, is like, where does the money go?
So today our three main programs at the foundation are our LGBTQ summer camp program, which is, like Sarah said, we're now sending kids to almost every single LGBTQ summer camp in North America. So,
And can you quickly say why summer camp is important?
I mean, I only went to summer camp once and I cried and called home like thousands of times.
So
I
feel
It's
triggering.
weird to be an ambassador for summer camp when you think it's an atrocious thing to do to a young person, but these kids want to go.
I wanted to go, and I didn't
Sarah
get
wanted
to
to
know.
go. So
Because
it's really,
Tegan was such a baby and came home from summer camp, and then every year I was like, I want to go, and she's like, you don't do well.
Well,
at
we did
camp. I was
go the
like,
next-
She didn't do well at camp.
we did go the next year, but I broke my arm. So again, summer camps aren't really my thing, but it is my favorite program. And
I mean, just really quickly to interject, I've gone to one of the ones that you.
yeah, why don't you talk about it? You went.
Yeah, and it was like queer heaven. Like,
Yeah.
I also, the idea of bugs or a bed that isn't my own, like, terrifies me. But like every day, everybody was hugging each other, and there was rainbow, and I don't even like rainbows. Like, there's so much internalized homophobia here. But I just like was so moved. Like, it was just very loving. It was almost like being in high school or junior high again, but all the straight people were gone.
What if you like straight people though? Like, I had a
Right.
thing for straight girls, so
Different
That's not the
foundation,
camp for
different
you.
foundation.
I don't think I should go to LGBTQ summer camp. I think I need to go to straight girl camp.
That's just called camp.
Sarah's hell as a teenager would have been going to like an LGBTQ
Yes.
summer camp.
That's how I thought too, but then I went to.
Okay, well, I'll say
three
this.
things,
Give
three-
us-
We're doing a really good job for LGBTQ
Yeah.
summer camps right now. Yeah, seriously, give us your money. We know exactly where to go.
No, I'll say this. I think that one of the things that moves me most about the LGBTQ summer camps is when you listen to the kids about why they enjoy going there. It's not just because they get to hang out with other kids like them. It's because they're surrounded by adults like them. Because even in this day and age, there's still so little representation to us LGBTQ people in the mainstream that a lot of young people don't know what their future looks like. And it's really inspiring for these kids to go to summer camp and see people like them in adult positions who are thriving and have relationships and have cool jobs. They bring in artists and speakers and journalists and all sorts of people that give these kids hope and a little bit of a picture of what the future looks like. So I can't speak more highly of the camps. It's amazing. So if you donate to the foundation, that's one of our main programs. Our second program that we're really inspired by is community grants. So we do a couple times a year, we do emergency funding for different causes. We've done funding most recently for trans-led organizations, but we've also had rounds of funding for Black-led organizations, we did a whole round of funding that was just research for interrelationship abuse. Like, one of the things we found out is that there's really no organizations offering support to queer people who are having domestic violence within their relationship. So we tried to look for organizations to fund, couldn't really find any, so we ended up giving a lot of the money to the Williams Institute, and they did an enormous amount of research for us about that. So community grants is really incredible. It's one of the grants, I would say it's one of the programs that if you're really interested in niche like giving, that would be where you'd want to give your money to. And then we also launched the LGBTQ healthcare directory a couple years ago now, and that is one of our most kind of like incredible programs, which is we are matching people. If you go on there and you're looking for a dentist or a massage therapist or a doctor who is culturally competent, who knows the LGBTQ community or identifies as LGBTQ, it matches you with them. So a lot of people in our community don't go to the doctor, don't like going into these sort of spaces because they feel uncomfortable. And we help find culturally competent people to help them. So those are three.
Not literally me and Tegan. We don't.
No, we don't
do that. But
we're useless. But
one of our collaborators is the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association. So they were our first kind of partnership where we actually felt like maybe we were almost competing with them at some point. Like, we weren't purposely trying to compete with them, but they had the largest database. And we, at some point, we ended up actually just partnering with them. It's been a huge labor of love, but the website is beautiful. It's won awards. It's wonderful. We're always, if there's any gay dentists or gay adjacent,
Any gay dentists?
please, we have, you can't know, it's,
I
think it's our #1 search is for gay dentists, which is so interesting because
Valid need.
I've never thought about the
it's a healthcare
sexuality of
directory,
the
it's a
person.
dating site. Like, get into it. Anyway, yeah, I'm very proud of the work that the foundation is doing. So yeah, I agree with you. If everyone here, even if you just sign up, one of the things we say to people all the time is you don't have to write a big check, although we'll take it. We'll take it by hand if you've got your checkbook here. But sign up for a monthly donation. It's $5 or $10. It helps us plan ahead and helps us create funding for these programs in advance. So it's all going out the door, and it's going to smaller organizations. We're not turning around and writing checks to HRC or Trevor Project. They raise tens of millions of dollars. We're giving it to the small community, driven organizations. So
One of the things that really astonishes me is just how, I was going to say forceful, but that's the wrong word, how passionate you've been in terms of taking on this role of fundraising. Because fundraising is...
you're not a wallflower.
And I'm curious, like, obviously you've talked about the challenges of fundraising, but like, what do you find is the thing that often moves the needle? Like, when you're having a conversation with a funder, a potential donor, like, what do you find is the thing kind of consistently that changes someone's mind or gets them on board? Or is it always different?
I think our passion for, like, I've been thinking about this a lot, actually, around parenthood, because I always thought people with kids, I never thought that was going to be my path. Like, no one could convince me, I guess is what.
Oh, I remember.
Well, yeah, like, I never.
You left me.
But I think that there's like this, I've learned in life that we should never take it personally if we can't convince someone to be on our side. Like, politics, like, I'm never going to convince my dad to not be who my dad is, like, when it comes to
Conservative.
Yeah, he's a conservative man, and I don't mean necessarily even socially conservative, but like, at some point, when I sit in front of a person and I'm telling them about anything, if I'm telling them about the greatness of The Sopranos and why I can justify watching it for like the 12th time from start to finish, the LGBTQ fundraising that we do, our music, anything that I'm interested in, I have sort of, at least now at almost 45 years old, what I've decided is that I should not take it personally if my sort of like evangelizing about something doesn't convince someone. I think that, you know, I don't think I'm a wizard. I can't change people's minds, but I can, I think, for people who are already interested in something or are passionate about something, I hope that I can sort of be a gateway. You know, if somebody is interested in, you know, supporting their community or supporting the community that we're a part of, I think that being honest and passionate is the best I can do. I can give you facts, I can tell you stories, but if you're not interested, I don't think there's anything that I can do to make you more interested in it. And I think, you know, there's a sort of...
That's where I come in.
No, but I do think, you know, that has given me permission not to always feel like I'm failing, because I think that there are just so many no's. There's so many no's, again and again and again. And I don't think it's because people are bad, or because people don't care, or because I didn't do a good job. I think that I think that just knowing I'm doing the best that I can do for the community, I'm doing the most I can do for my, you know, for my community, but also, you know, for myself. Like, at the end of the day, it's like I'm working really hard. I used to take it so personally when fans didn't like something new that we would put out, and I would be like, maybe we...
Where are the guitars?
Yeah, whatever it is, you know? Like, and at the end of the day, it's like, man, and when I say the end of the day, I think I mean, like, when I'm dead, you know?
Took a turn.
I'm gonna look back at my life and I'm gonna go like, God, I never phoned it in. You know, maybe the record wasn't the most successful, or, you know, we had higher hopes for fundraising when we first started the foundation. That makes me laugh now, but like, we did the best we could do, and I feel proud of that, and I feel really proud of that. And I think that that is a piece of advice I would give across any sort of like part of your life, whether it's personal or professional or philanthropic. If you did the best that you could do, like, you can't be too hard on yourself. Like, that's, you know, that's it. If we were all out there doing the best that we could do, things would be great.
I mean, I think you're killing it.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do.
I want to go back to something that both of
I think
you...
I could talk you into having kids. It is pretty...
I know.
Also, no.
Oh, I'm so glad.
We'll see you guys when you're old and you're like, what's Sid up to? Is he interested in taking on an elder?
One of the things I found really fascinating, but also kind of depressing, is the way that both of you have spoken about the challenges of fundraising as queer women versus queer men. And I'm just wondering if you could just talk more about that, just in the spirit of what you were saying earlier about how our communities are so different and the needs of our communities are so different. So yeah, I don't know if that's something you could share more about.
I mean, I could speak just broadly, I mean, but also, I know we're all tired of this topic, but like, you know, meaning men, women, sort of like, you know, the differences. I don't know, I think we're all like a little tired.
Okay, well, if we're tired, we can move on.
No, but I want to, I want to...
I'll never get
Why
tired.
don't you lay down? Are you tired?
We're not, I'm not tired of that. I mean, we as a culture, like, but I don't want to get up here and complain. I will say that, like, there are parallels to our musical career to try to fundraise. Like, we know lots of men who, you know, get paid more than we do to play the same festival in the same slot. You know, there is this, culturally there's this thing that we have fought against our whole career, where men will approach us of all ages and they'll be like, oh my God, my wife loves you, or my girlfriend loves you, or my best friend loves you in college. And
She's gay.
Yeah. But even if they're straight, like, they look so excited to meet us and they apologize. They're like, I know your music's not for me. And it's weird because there's so many men in our audience. So like, to those men that approach us, I want to be like, give me your hand, let me take you over and show you other men like you who also like our band, because music is for everyone, it isn't for, you know, like, it's for everybody. And so we've spent a lot of our career trying to, it's like a weird thing, like, where you're like I'll go through phases where I'm like, I'm really gay, because I want to make sure that all the gay people know that so that they can come to the show, right? But I'm also a girl, so I'm all like, I want to really like play that up because I want women to feel comfortable.
Who are you today?
I think today I'm like...
Gay, girl, which one?
Gay,
you have to pick a box.
I think I'm like gay girl today. Like I'm like projecting that, but I also like am very proud of the fact that I can talk to anybody, that I feel like our band at times has been really appealing to all people. Like, you know, we're not we're not as niche as people think, you know? We're kind of whorish in that way. Like we kind of just want everyone to like us. Like I get the same jolt of energy from talking to a gay girl who likes our music as I do from talking to a guy in his 50s on a plane who's like, big fan. And I'm like, really? Oh my God! You know, like I get so excited by that. So I feel the same way about our foundation. It's like, I don't think it's niche. I think it's just, you might talk to me and I might tell you something. Like, for example, I'm friends with this guy who used to be an NHL hockey player, and I'm not gonna say who it is, but he donates to our foundation because one time I randomly went off about how cool LGBTQ summer camps are, and he wrote me a message afterwards and said, this really resonated with me because when I was 13, I started going to hockey camp. And that's when I figured out who I was and what I wanted to do and why I felt like inspired about my life, and I had been starting to make questionable decisions, and it really kept me on track. And that's what really did, like for him, he was like, I really related and resonated with what you said about summer camp. So I think for me, the parallels in my life, music and foundation and other areas too, is just like about finding that connection point with people. Like, I'm for you if you like me. And I think like for Sara and I, sometimes I have felt like our longevity in the music business has been because you don't have to like our new record, you don't have to like our haircuts, you just have to like us. You just have to get me, and if you like me, then you can stick with me. And I feel the same when I go out and start fundraising. It's like, how do I make people in this room feel like they could sit down and have dinner with me and get along with me? Trust me.
Oh, I have an idea that Tegan, wait, I'll just bring it up publicly quickly, just so
No.
you guys like the idea. Tegan brought up the dinner thing. I think a great fundraising thing this year would be, we're turning 45, and I think it would be really fun to do just a easy buy-in, like a raffle ticket type thing, and you can win, have our 45th birthday dinner with us.
Who doesn't want?
I think that would be really fun.
Who doesn't want 45th birthday with Tegan and Sara?
45th birthday with Tegan and Sara. You have to buy like $45 worth of raffle tickets. I don't know.
Going once.
Going once, would you do it? I don't know. Would you do it? Maybe. But I just wanted to say also, just jumping off on Tegan's point too, like fundraising, you know, and the parallels with our band and being queer women and trying to figure out just like how to get in the door with people. You know, there's lots of historical evidence that it is just harder to fundraise for women, and I think also too, like meeting people where they're at.
Sorry, I didn't really just to your direct question. I was sort of getting at that.
That's okay.
It's hard to raise money. Also, like historically, women had less money, so they just didn't support the community in the same kind of way that gay men had a lot more disposable income. They weren't necessarily family building. They, you know, there's lots of stuff written about like why gay communities, gay villages, whatever, that they tend to primarily be men. Men had money to invest in the community. They also socialize. These are stereotypes, but they socialize in different ways than women. I've seen it, you know, when I was in my very out LGBTQ 20 years old looking for community. It was like, I was like going to lesbian bars and like no one bought me a drink, and people were bringing like Tupperware with quinoa, and I was like, holy shit. Like seriously, it's not a bad thing, I'm just saying like that was like, wow, okay, that's not, no thank you. And so now I bring Tupperware with quinoa to work all the time, but it's really fine, it's
Tupperware
different.
of quinoa to your 45th birthday. That's okay.
Our 45th birthday dinner is a Tupperware of quinoa.
There's
But
a backlash against quinoa. I had dinner with a
I
lesbian
think we're all tired
recently,
of this
and they said the special was this quinoa salad, and this woman was like, I fucking hate quinoa. And the server looked devastated, and I was like,
Quinoa
quinoa's
are women.
great.
you know what? I prefer couscous.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You would.
I would.
You would.
Pearls, if you can find it. So I
Fucking love pearls.
love,
Oh my God.
love
I
it. So
just
good.
discovered pearls.
It's delicious. It just goes down so smooth. Okay.
But it's basically
Wait, what is
It
it?
is pasta. It's just pasta.
Wait, is pearls the tiny,
It's
tiny
like the
little
round
mini-
ball ones.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, I think meeting people where they're at. So like, again, these are really, really broad stereotypes here, but like
Sarah's gonna get canceled.
what I have found. Please don't cancel me on this, please. I like all of the beans and lentil community. Anyway, so I think what I have found in conversation is that generally speaking, when you're talking to men, that first of all, they love words like investment and they love words like incubator, but not to do with kids. And so they like to talk about your
That she
business
deserves to be
plan.
canceled for that, by the way.
They love to talk. They mean men, and I just mean like generally, men love to talk about like what's the financial situation look like? Like, how much is your, your
What's your
split
crypto?
on this? What's your, whatever. And so being able to sort of like jump into that conversation, and it's the same with music. Like, I've never sat on an airplane or across from someone who is a woman and they say like, oh, you're a musician, what are your top 5 Beatles albums ranked? But men do. Men say that all the time. Men love to get you to rank Beatles, and so at some point I used to be like, God, it's so annoying how men are always
Maybe
asking
that's
to
what I'll
rank
do as a
everything.
fundraiser for Tegan and Sara Foundation. I'll sit down and have an entire dinner and talk about the Beatles. That's fine. I'll do that.
And
$5,000.
And God forbid that you tell the person who wants you to rank your Beatles records that you don't even like the Beatles, and they will literally freak out. So, but anyways, all of which to say, I think that like men and women, again, broad strokes here, sometimes it's different. Like when we're talking to our community, within our community, that requires a different kind of conversation and a different kind of, first of all, when I sit down and talk to somebody within the community, I say, what is your interest? What are you worried about things in the community? What's bugging you? What do you feel motivated by? What are you inspired by? When I'm talking to someone who maybe is like sort of like outside of the community, that's a whole different kind of conversation, and it presents different challenges. And so I used to feel a little more like cynical, I think, about all of this, but as I've gotten older, I realized, like, look, I'm the one that decided I wanted to do this work. I'm the person who has a band and has a foundation, and it's really my job to sort of like meet people where they're at and hopefully bring them on board using those skills. But yeah, there are just historically, empirically challenges to raising money for queer people and women that is just very hard.
Yeah, listen, I know that throughout your career you've had to talk about this, and like I don't want to beat a dead horse, but mostly I just
not literally.
actually really want to celebrate that you're doing something that I think is really important and unique, and that you do face systemic challenges that have not gone away. And so mostly the question was coming from a spirit of being like, how do you push through it still? Even like you've been through it on the music end, now on the foundation, and like and even within our communities, right? Like I think that's the other thing, is it's not just, it's within our community that I think makes it more.
You've seen this too, not just the work that we do at the foundation, but anytime I feel tired, I think about the people working at these organizations who are deciding to do this work, and sometimes I can't believe they haven't given up. Like, I think that's ultimately what inspires me, is that, just the fortitude and the sort of like, the belief in what they're doing. It requires so much more than me going like, oh, do I still want to do some fundraising? Like, that doesn't seem that hard compared to the actual work that's being done on a community level.
Well, also, again, you've experienced this on the board, and you do so much work on your own independently as well. Like, so much of your career is about giving back and about representation, so you feel this firsthand. It's like, because you get the letters and you get the comments and you get the feedback from these organizations and from the people that are directly impacted in the community, and they're so grateful. Like, this is not my advice, this is just advice that's been given to me again and again. It feels good to help. It feels good to give. If you do not feel good, get up and go and do something for somebody else. That is the easiest, fastest way to feel better in your life, is to do something for somebody else for no reason other than it just feels good. And every time I feel bad about what's happening in the world, or I feel worried about what's happening against our community right now, I just remind myself that we're doing good. Our latest round of community grants, we got 1,000 applications. That is staggering. The amount of need in our community right now is staggering, but we were able to help 25 of those organizations right away. And I think that's huge, and like, it feels good to be able to support people. It's the biggest, most political act you can make right now, is give, invest, care.
No, 100%. I mean, I will say, when the executive orders got passed, I didn't leave my bed for a day. And then I had a conversation. I'm really looking to like my queer elders right now, because they've been through the cycle and the pendulum going back and forth. And one of them was basically like, well, there are things that you could be doing. And it was like such a small reminder, but a useful reminder to be like, yes, there's actually a range of things that I can be doing to be mobilized and to get out there and support my communities. And actually, I felt so much better after I started doing that, right? So I mean, it seems like such a basic principle, but it's so easy in these times to not feel mobilized, to feel demoralized. On that note, next year, as you mentioned, is your 10-year anniversary of the foundation, and obviously the needs of the community have changed so much during that time, especially when you take into consideration COVID and like everything that happened then. I'm curious, as we think about what is happening right now, the heightened attacks and policing of queer and trans people, how are you seeing the future of the foundation? How are you imagining it? Where are you at? Again, I know we've beaten this conversation as well, but
can I just? Well, I think this is partly related to what you're asking, but also just something that popped into my head is that, again, the parallels with music. And you and I have talked about this so much over the years. We were in the music business professionally playing music for 17 years before we won a Juno. And we have not won a Juno since. But it doesn't in any way... No, but this is the thing. It doesn't overshadow our career in any way that 26 years, that there was only one time we won a Juno. I feel so grateful to have... We traveled around the world. We've had incredible experiences. We've played the biggest festivals, opened for some of the biggest acts. We've had incredible experiences. We're so lucky. Unbelievably lucky to have had the career we've had. And it doesn't matter to me in the end how many awards we win or how many records we sell. It just doesn't matter. To be perfectly honest, it's not against the Junos. I've never even taken my Junos out of the box. And it's just, partly because it's all windows in my apartment. There's just nowhere to put it. I don't have any shelves. I just put it on the floor.
Wow, sounds fancy, Tegan.
Yeah, I guess so. It feels mostly just hot because of global warming. There's so much sun, but it's not a diss on the Junos. It's just that my career is it's not about the numbers. It's about the experience. It's about the number of young people that have approached us over our 25-year career and thanked us for being out and providing representation to them. Those things mean so much to me, and I think our work with the foundation, it's hard, but it's so meaningful. And I think as we look to the future, we should remain focused on the future. It's just focus on investment in the community, continue to show up for our community, continue to find these organizations that are doing necessary work, keep asking people to invest in this community. I'm not worried. I think the same way about the foundation and I think about our career. We're lucky to get to do the work. We're lucky that this is how our life has panned out. We're so grateful for the support and the community. If you want to join us, join us. If you want to listen to us, listen to us. If you want to have my birthday with me, I guess, give me money.
Oh shit, it's happening.
Yeah.
Sounds like you were publicly announcing it.
Yeah, totally.
Sounds like an announcement.
It's going up online later. No, but you know what I mean? I just am it feels good. It feels good to do what we're doing, and I just hope people will join us and continue to support us in doing that. And if it isn't us, find something to give back to. Find some part of the community that does inspire you and give to that part of the community. It feels good.
I think too, one thing I just want to say, and I think it sort of bookends where we started the conversation when we were trying to figure out what the quote-unquote problem we were going to try to solve. Our community, I don't think of it that way. I think of it in the 10 years since we started, we went from thinking that we could somehow solve a problem or focus on an issue and hopefully bring about positive change, all of those kinds of things. I now know that this work will be needed long after Tegan and I are gone. It is. These are problems that are facing.
If the planet's still.
Well, if the planet's still here, but I think the problems that we're talking about are not problems that our community is facing. It is the problems that we are all facing. These are problems of class. These are inequities. These are discriminatory policies or things that face every single person in every single community. We're just specifically focusing on the way that capitalism or these types of inequities specifically impact our community. And until we address those other issues in the world, and until things change, until I don't know what happens, our community is always going to have these kinds of problems. We're all going to face these kinds of problems. And so I think at the end of this 10 years, what I'm reflecting on is that by investing in our community, by being nimble and being able to sort of pivot whatever is happening in the world, that's the best that we can do because the world it's both beautiful and horrible. And so we're just going to be dealing with this forever. And I think there's a sort of humility in knowing that what we initially thought was a problem we could solve is I think about that now and I'm just oh Lord. But I take comfort in knowing that we're just investing. We're sort of returning the love and support that we've been given throughout our lives back into a community that we really love.
One of the things I've been thinking about that's very similar is how do we think beyond our communities, right? Because right now I find that we're so siloed and everyone's just thinking about themselves or their own family and whatever, and it's like, how do we have conversations with people, and we've talked about this, how do you have conversations with people who don't have the same viewpoints as you, people who violently or vehemently disagree with you, as opposed to just being like, they're stupid or we are not talking to them. Like, there's so much of that that's happening right now, and I completely agree with you. So
And all we can do, honestly, is, I don't know if this is like the right way to say it, but like all I can do is model the behavior I hope, or model a sort of like attempt at a behavior that I feel like is missing right now. Like
totally.
At some point, I joined in on this idea that we can silence or shun or push out people who don't agree with us,
No,
and we
that
can
didn't
make
work.
the safe. Not only does it not work, I think that it is just so isolating, and it is so lonely, and we have got to be willing to listen to each other,
Totally.
make space for ideas and opinions that don't line up with ours, and
Totally.
figure out if there is a consensus, and not to be so Canadian about it, but like Dad and I were talking about this the other day. I just want to see people being civil with each other. I don't want to see politicians dismissing each other and chastising each other and brutalizing each other for fun and for likes and for bits on the internet or whatever. I just want to see people be kinder to each other, and that might mean that we might have to make space for ideas and things that don't completely line up with ours. But is there a way to be kind with each other and have those conversations? Like, fuck, we need that,
I think we're going to move to audience questions really briefly, but before we end my part, I just want to say that I admire and look up to you both so much. I've said this for years, but you are my queer role models. I wouldn't be the artist that I am, I wouldn't do the things I do in the world without having both of you. So, and I know that I'm one of like countless, one of my favorite things is like meeting a Tegan and Sara fan who will say the same thing, that you changed their life. So thank you so much for doing everything that you're doing. And you didn't have to. You didn't have to start a foundation. You didn't have to be doing the things that you're doing. So yeah, I'm super grateful, and I know that many, many people are.
Thank you, friend. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Vivek. Hi, Tegan. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for that very insightful conversation. It's so bright in here right now. Bright enough for you to see the first who's going to ask you a question. Let's have you on your feet, my love. Hailing from Calgary. She has a yeah, shout out.
Hello.
Here you go, my love.
Hello, thank you so much for a lovely panel. My name is Zenon, and I wanted to ask each of you, all three of you, to possibly provide a piece of literature that you feel like has spoken to you, and possibly you've spoken to the community, so that we all have some resources to educate ourselves.
I mean, the thing that popped into my, first of all, hello, and thank you for asking a question. First book that just popped into my head was, both Sarah and I talk about how formative it was, but was Anne Marie MacDonald's Fall on Your Knees, which was the first book I ever read with queer representation. And we both read it in high school, and it was before either of us came out. In my case, it was before I'd ever had an experience with a woman, and I just...
An experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cute.
It was amazing.
I will say On Tyranny. It's a really short, fast read, but like some of the stuff is like the stuff we're talking about, where it's like, talk to strangers, like make connections with people. Like the worst thing you can do is continue to isolate yourself. So I thought it was actually really useful to read right now.
I mean, I'm paralyzed right now. Like,
Sarah can't read.
I am one of, this feels like rank your top 5 Beatle albums. I have learned, I don't know if this is like a type of learning or something, or the way my brain works. I find it extremely hard. The only thing I can ever answer, honestly, is like, can you tell me the show you're gonna take to a desert island? It's Sopranos.
Well, you can.
No, I don't know if there's anything queer in there, although in recently watching The Sopranos, I do really appreciate the male relationships, and I just want to throw that out there, that I could just watch that show for the rest of time, because I always find new fascinating levels. I have so many books that have changed my life and that I would recommend. It's overwhelming. It's to the point where I've actually stopped recommending books, because it actually, that thing I was saying earlier where I was like, you can't change people's mind and you just do the best, it actually pisses me off that people don't read the books that I tell them to read, and that they don't like the books that I like in the way that I like them, and so I've stopped making recommendations.
But for you, I'll try and maybe I'll do it online or I don't know. But there's so many, I don't know what to say. Recently, I read a great gay book called The Safe Keep that I absolutely love.
Oh,
It is
so
hot,
good.
HOT, very, very hot sex. Okay.
Gay experiences.
It was a gay experience, all right.
Well, on that note, I have no segue. Joelle is here to ask you a question. Hi, Joelle.
Hi, Tegan and Sara. You were talking about the dichotomy between isolation and community with the artificial nature of social media. I'm just curious, how can we continue to propagate that genuine, generous community you were talking about in our daily lives, and also just make sure that other people know that that's what we want?
I love this.
I just want to say one quick thing. Any opinion I'm having up here is totally my own and not Tegan's. And I want to also say that lots of people find beautiful connection online and on social media. I think it is an absolute nightmare and it's ruined the world. And I wish that we would just like unplug it or send it to Mars with Elon and Mark and all of those guys. Like go do social media up on that other planet or whatever and fuck off. Like leave us alone. I personally think it is just done. It's tragically torn the world into shreds as far as I'm concerned, and the best thing we can do is spend more time without our phones talking to other people in person. That's what I think.
Touche.
I would agree. I think you said the word. You said connection, and I think that's just like how do you find connection? Some people still find connection online, still find it in the comment section of posts or on social media, and that's great. I made a pledge to not go on social media for a year. I'm 5 months into it. I can't even tell you how fundamentally different I feel. It's changed every element of my life, from the way I connect to friends, to the way I connect with media, to how much less I buy, to how much more confidence I feel. I think we've all accepted a level of like bullying and parasocial relationships, like it is rewiring the way that we connect, and it's been really wonderful to get offline and to connect in real life. So I'd say, keep using your social media, but again, you said connection, look for other connections, genuine connections, real life, in-person connections. I think the humanity that you have to feel when you stand in front of another human being is what makes us human, and we should keep doing that.
And it's our phones too. And
I do miss videos of dogs, I will admit that.
and it's our phones too, right? Like I really advocate for trying to. I can't remember which writer it was, but I read this years ago that if you look at people on the street, like we're all holding our cell phones all the time, we're fidgeting and holding them, and it sort of has like replaced the comfort of holding our parents' hand. Like we are going through life with this thing that just to have it in our hand gives us comfort. And that I sit with that all the time because I'm literally now holding a little person's hand. So I don't have my cell phone out as much, and I'm providing, like he understands. At 3 years old, all he knows is that we do emails, that's what work is, and he's constantly before bed right now asking me, Mom, can I come with you sometime and do emails with you? Mom, what are emails? And it makes me feel so upset because he thinks that when we're not with him or holding his hand or playing with him that we are doing emails, and he is right. And it is, actually it's not even emails, it's scrolling through social media and shopping for carpets. What did people shop for carpets before? I don't know, there was carpet stores. But anyway, yeah, I just think if you can find another, I'm not saying we all need to pacify ourselves. We all need to feel the comfort of something in our hand. I highly recommend trying to not do it with your phone all the time.
Speaking of something in your hand, I got a segue now.
Yeah.
David's got something in his hand, and he has a beautiful message to share with you all.
Yeah, it's actually not a question, but actually a cool story of how your music has kind of shaped my music journey.
Okay.
You were talking about in high school, like what shapes you, and as a kid in high school, I was just jamming out to guitar and playing Walking with Ghost. So at 17 years ago, kind of dating myself, I was on Canadian Idol, and that was the song I sang for the judges.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so now I've been doing music for like 15 years. I make dance music now, but that's kind of what started.
Smart.
And what's crazy is that song is kind of like, anytime I kind of doubt myself, like, oh, can I keep doing this? The judges were like, hey, we see potential in you, you should keep doing this. So I've been doing it 15 years. And I don't think I'll ever get a chance to meet you again, so I wrote you a thank you letter.
Oh, God, that's so
Sarah, I got a moment for David to come up. Yes, go ahead, David. Thank you.
I can't wait to check it out. So nice to meet you.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, it's true of them.
Mom, my mom's gonna be.
Oh, this is amazing.
So nice to meet you.
Oh my god, this is such a funny. Okay, this is like we're having a personal conversation. But do you watch that show, The Rehearsal? Have you watched season 2 of The Rehearsal?
I love that show.
Okay, the last week's episode where he's talking about being a judge on Canadian Idol. Did you watch that episode?
So I've only seen season 1. I haven't watched it.
OMG. Is your mind going to be blown by episode 2 of The Rehearsal?
You're on it, just in case you didn't know.
You might be. I don't
Nathan
know.
Fielder plays you, actually.
Have you seen it?
Well, the energy is so good in here. We're actually going to have one more question. Is that okay with you all?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course.
Who wants to be the lucky one?
Last question.
Okay, you pick.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I saw your hand go up. Yeah, with the orange band.
Okay, stand up. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi,
Nice
Megan.
to meet you. Thank you so much for this panel. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that me and my sister are also both part of the LGBTQ plus community, and you were just such a big part of us growing up and listening to your music and having crushes on straight girls. But my sister, who I love so dearly, brought to my attention that you guys made one of the songs that really shaped us. Everything is Awesome from the Lego Movie. And she told me that I had to ask you guys, what was it like making that song, working on that movie? How was it?
Thank you for your question, and also congratulations for being in the community. It's like being a lottery winner, really. Yeah. You know what's really funny is we were on tour in Europe. We got an email from our management. They said, would you like to audition basically a song, like demo a version of this song for this movie that's coming out about Lego? And I'll be honest, I was kind of like underwhelmed by the idea. But the song was so catchy and cool. We don't usually do that. You know, we're writers ourselves, so we don't usually cover a song, but we were like, okay. And when we got the email saying that we had been chosen to do the song, I was really excited, but I was even more excited when I heard that Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo was producing the song, and The Lonely Island were gonna be on the track. I ended up recording it in LA. Sarah was living in Montreal at the time and couldn't get away. I can't remember what happened.
I was actually living in New York.
Okay, well, either way, she did not come to LA, so I ended up going and doing the recording, and it was so stressful. I cannot even tell you, because I'd never done anything for the movies before, but they wanted 4 different versions, 4 different tempos, multiple different keys, and they booked me to come in and sing for 2 hours. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, because the song is hard, and I did not know it in multiple keys and singing it in different tempos. It was very stressful, the experience, but it was a really good learning experience. I was in New York when the movie came out, and Sarah and I and her partner and Sarah Bareilles, oddly, the 4 of us went and saw the movie together. And we came out of the theater and everybody was like singing the song as they walked out of the theater because it plays in the credits. And Sarah, like, I just remember her looking at me like, I think it's gonna be a big movie. I was like, I think it might be a big movie. Like, it seems like it's gonna be a big movie. And yeah, like 7 months or 8 months later, we were playing the Oscars. And it's one of those weird stories where it really just didn't seem like that big of a deal, and then it became arguably one of the biggest things that's ever happened to us. It would also put it in the bucket of incredibly stressful, incredibly difficult. Like, the preparation for the Oscars sent me into a tailspin. We are not made for popularity. We were like, no, we're failed human beings in that department. We were so stressed out. When I got the call that it had been nominated for an Oscar and they said we were gonna perform, my manager at the time, Nick, called me, and I said to him, can they get somebody else to sing it? I was so scared. I was so nervous.
Sarah.
I think, okay, one thing I want to point out too is there's, not unlike a Canadian Idol, there's a thing about TV that is just so stressful, and we knew, like, is there a bigger show in the world, like, than the Oscars? Like, we knew that this was going to be really
So scary.
intense. And I'll never forget going to the first rehearsal with, like, because there's so many dancers and so many people, and like the choreographer was so nice, but like, when I say so nice, I don't even know why I said that. She just yelled at me. She was like, get over there, move, run, go here. And I was like, I had to like go to the bathroom and I like cried. Like, I was like, you know, and I agree with Tegan, like, we're just, I don't know if we're not cut out for popularity, but we're definitely not cut out for that kind of popularity. And
I spent the entire week being like, don't get kicked in the face by
It was
one of the
so
dancers.
Yeah.
They're doing flips
Oh my
and
god. And it would be like, we would see the mark and you would just be like, go, 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 go. like just get there as fast as you could because there'd be like a spaceman like doing like a back handspring over top of your head, and I just was like, I just remember my main thought about that performance was don't do anything embarrassing because it's for fucking ever. Like it's just a billion people are gonna see it, and the whole time, the only person like Tegan was like, oh my god, we got off stage. She's like, oh my god, I saw Oprah and I saw Clooney and I saw this and I saw that and whatever, and I just like the whole time all I saw was Jennifer Aniston.
Straight girl.
I don't know why, like I was just like, it's the room is so much smaller than you think it's gonna be, and I just my eyes just kept magnetizing back to like one person, and I didn't get to see Oprah. I
saw
see her.
Meryl Streep. I made eye contact. I was like, I could retire now. It was the scariest.
It was
the
really
scariest
wild.
day of my life, and then 3 minutes of just pure joy. It was really fun. So anyway, I will say, if there's a message to be taken from that story, it's just like, sometimes the thing you're most scared to do or the thing that you're most unsure of ends up being so fruitful and interesting. We just learned so much.
Wait, can I say one more thing?
No,
Just
trying to wrap it up. I would need like
No, I really
for
think
our
this
time's
is,
up.
I know, I think this is good for an industry festival. I just want to say, so like, here's the height of our career. We like come off of Heartthrob. Things are great. We're getting all these huge opportunities. We do the Lego movie. We're on the Academy Awards. And a few months after that, we were taking meetings with agents because we were changing agencies. And we went into this meeting, and there was this big piece of paper booklet. There was a booklet for each of us, and the piece of paper was this arrow that was like pointed down, like jagged, like sort of like the stock market since Trump came in, and it just said trending down, and it was our career, and it was our numbers. And I'm saying this just as an example of like when everything on the outside of the world looks like everybody's like, you're at the height of your fame, you can do anything you want. The reality of that, even within a few months, was that we were trending down, and all of our numbers, public numbers, were down. And they were like, the agents were there to tell us how they were going to save our career.
You're like, let's start a foundation.
I mean, that's just good, you know. It's like when things look good, you know. Maybe it's. I still thought things were great, but just
Not a hopeful story.
that was a hopeful story about the industry.
Thank you so much for listening to us yammer on. Thanks to Departure for having us. Thanks to Rhoda Triano. Who's so incredible. She had so many amazing books and music, and we're just so grateful to share the stage. Thank you, all of you. Have an amazing time at Departure, and consider donating to Tegan and Sara Foundation. Thanks again, everybody.
A little louder for Tegan, Sara, today! Yeah! And thank you all for joining us for such an